Hi guys, this is Jim from mmdc.net. Today I'm going to be walking through how to set up a virtual machine. We're going to be setting up Ubuntu server on this virtual machine on my laptop. I've been working with SSH for a little bit, and I kind of going through building a test environment so I can set up and test some things about SSH security. Didn't want to do it on one of my real servers, so we're going to create one today. Okay, download the Virtualbox software. It's easy to find. Google Virtualbox. It's free. Install it for your operating system. And also, we've got Ubuntu 18.04 Live Server AMD64, which I downloaded from Ubuntu.com. And we're going to create one using that. It should just take just a few minutes. So we're going to say new. And it's as soon as I type Ubuntu, it knows we're dealing with Linux, or probably there are other options, Solaris, BSD, whatever, Windows. They all work, but these settings will be for Ubuntu. Okay. Let's call it conflict in the name, I guess. Okay, I'm going to give it about 4 gigs of RAM. I don't think we're going to need anywhere near that, but you never know. Creating a virtual hard disk now. The virtual hard disk is a big file that, kind of like an ISO, I guess. It's a big blob. This is not trying to create partitions on your disk. That's important to note. Really, I've never heard of anybody screwing up their base install of Windows or Mac or Linux or whatever using VirtualBox. You're creating a big file, everything lives in there. So we're going to create the virtual hard disk now. And we're going to go with the default VDI, VirtualBox disk image. Dynamically allocated, it's going to be about 10 gigs. Ubuntu server, that's great. Okay, now we have a virtual piece of hardware that does not yet have an operating system on it, even though we told it Ubuntu is going to be there, is going to be coming. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into settings here and go to network, and we're going to make this into a bridged adapter. And why I'm doing that is in my home network here I have addresses in the range 10.1.10. whatever. And I want this machine to appear in that range. So it's going to talk to my router and get an address from there. And it does that through DHCP and whatnot, but basically bridged works best. We don't want it to create a new virtual interface or whatever. Okay, let's fire it up. And over here, I'm going to specify the ISO that I downloaded from Ubuntu, and we're going to start it. There's our familiar purple Ubuntu screen with a little keyboard and a little guy at the bottom. Okay, what it's doing now is setting up the install program. It's not actually installing to our virtual hard disk yet, but this is what it does to provide you with the setup that you've probably seen if you've ever installed an operating system, or Linux more specifically. Okay, the welcome screen. Welcome, bienvenue, welcome, whatever, and welcome. Okay, we're going to pick English here. This is a keyboard selection, which is also English. I don't know if it detected that or just goes with the default. And we're going to install Ubuntu. And we're going to just not pay attention to the other options right now, but just go ahead and install Ubuntu. Okay, here's down you see configure an interface, and it's going to say we'll use DHCP for IPv4. And that is, it looks like 10.1.10.82. That's great, that's what we want. That's in the range, so we'll know how to talk to that. proxy we don't need. If you have an HTTP proxy, you'd have to specify it. We're going to use the entire disk and the VBox hard disk. It doesn't even present your real hard disk at this point because, you know, it's smart. Okay, I'm going to hit done, and it's asking us to confirm to write to the disk. Now it's more of a hardware thing where you'd actually want to have a little sanity check at this point, make sure that you're going to overwrite everything and install, but we're just going to continue. Now I'm going to put in my name, which is Jim. Server's name, we're going to call this one Mayfly. Now Mayfly is a little bug that takes about a year to be born, and then when it is born, it only lives for a single day. So it's famous for being a very ephemeral little creature that does not last long. Much like this server is going to go away probably shortly after this video. I highly recommend looking at the Mayfly article on Wikipedia. It's actually kind of cool and sort of sad. So my username here is going to be Jim, and password and go down to the next one. Now, import SSH identity. I had not seen this before I started preparing for this video, and I wanted, actually it was one of the motivating factors for doing this as a video. We have the opportunity at this point to import an SSH identity, which is basically your public key file from GitHub. Now I'm a GitHub user, and I've had a key installed on GitHub for a long time. I didn't know that you could actually kind of publish it, but you can actually grab any user's name, any GitHub user's key by their username from GitHub, and it's actually kind of a cool way to securely distribute your keys. More about that later. My GitHub username is there, and Jim O'Connell again, and we're going to say done. Now it's installing a few more things, and it's going to take just a minute or two, so I'm going to pause here. Okay, it looks as though it's getting ready to finish up, so I'll restart the video. Okay, it's ready to be rebooted, as you see in that little green button at the bottom. And I'm going to do that. It's going to ask us to remove the installation media. There's nothing to remove because it's just an ISO. Hit enter. As you can see, it's going through its kind of a familiar boot up sequence, lots of OKs, an occasional red one scrolls by too fast for you to read. Failed to start set console font and key map. Well, we don't really worry about the console font. Everything else is looking good. Okay, now it's going to give us some information about the keys, SSH, host key, fingerprints, and all that. But we're going to go straight to the login. Login as your user and your password. Very good. Now this is a console login, which is different than an SSH login. So this is directly accessing the machine. This is like having a keyboard and monitor hooked up to a server that you're doing the install from a thumb drive or something. And so this is as close to the hardware, as close to the operating system as we can be. We can trust that what we do here is not being interfered with by hackers or foreign governments or anything like that. Very, very little risk of a man-in-the-middle attack, which is really not the case with SSH. If you're running a little network at home, chances are you're not going to be targeted by anybody who's going to run a man-in-the-middle attack, unless you're Edward Snowden or something. They might try and do a man-in-the-middle attack on him. But you need to have auditable security if you're doing if you're working with machines that contain very sensitive information, maybe patient medical records or financial information or government secrets or anything like that. Somebody's going to care that you did everything right. So what we're going to do is we're going to get the fingerprints of the keys on the server right now. I've written about this on my blog, which I said is mmdc.net, and here's a little section on verifying the server. We can do this, either type in these commands, or I've written, because I've done this video a couple times today, we're going to actually do it from a little script I put on my server. Get this out of the way. Come on. Doesn't want to go. There it goes. Okay, and the script I've written, let's go here. Now what we're doing here, the curl command is just going to grab that and stream it. It's kind of like cat over a web server or something. So this is the command. It starts out right under my, I can kind of point out with the mouse here, right to the right of this line. We have the shebang that says bin bash normal. A little bit of explanation about this is a little script to verify the signatures on a server you're connecting to. It says you should be running this on a console, not SSH. Echoes out some things to make it a little bit more readable. Then it goes into etc SSH, and for each of the, it's *SA_key pub. So we're saying for each of the RSA and DSA keys that are there by default, we want to run this line, SSH keygen -LF on that file name. And that prints out a little bit of information. Now, you'll probably want to type this in by hand if you're truly paranoid. I can't cut and paste into this VirtualBox server where I would do that. But what I've done is I put this script on my server, and I trust it, so I'm going to pipe it to SH to run it. All right. We get these lines down here, 1024, 256, and 2048. They're the different key signatures. Now I'm expecting, if you look at the end of the 256 line, it says ECDSA, which is elliptical curve DSA, and I think that's what it's going to default to when I try to connect. So I'm going to, I also want to get the IP address so I know where to connect. And up here that looks like 10.1.10.83. So I'm going to go over to my terminal here, and I'll clear that. SSH 10.1.10.83. Now I have the same username on both machines, so I don't have to specify a user, but watch what happens. The authenticity of host whatever can't be established. The ECDSA key fingerprint is SHA-256, that sounds right. So we're going to pull that down so we can see both. And 4F plus CMYU, it looks like 4F plus CMYU, IQYAZH, IQYAZH, and so on. If this were a real server that we're connecting to, you'd want to actually print this out. You would have gotten the server key fingerprints from the system administrator. Ideally, that would be on paper if you were in a really secure environment and kept on file, so that could be checked later. But that looks good. So at this point, we're going to type yes. we have a fairly good idea that the server has not been compromised. Now, if you notice at the bottom, we're logged in. I never typed a password, and I didn't. You've seen everything we did. What's happening is it went out to github.com and got my public key. And that's what we need to put on the server to log in remotely without a password, because I have keys set up on this machine. So that's what we've got. We've logged in successfully and very, very securely. We could do the same thing on any server. You'd want to have console access for the setup and for the key printout. But after that, we have a very, very good idea that nobody is listening to this connection. Okay, well, there we have it. We have created a server using Virtualbox, and that's an Ubuntu server. We haven't really installed much on it, but now we have a machine that we can talk to, and this can be become part of your development environment or testing or learning environment. And yeah, we're all set. So thanks for watching, of course, and visit my blog, which is mmdc.net, and let me know down below if there is anything you'd like me to talk about or cover, or any questions, any mistakes that I've made, clarifications you can offer. That would be great. And we'll do some more videos in the near future. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.